Hi, it's Jack Hedges from the Humans Connecting team. Our podcast is all about serving, supporting, challenging, and inspiring you to become a connected human. The content of our podcast is of a general nature, and consuming this content is not the same as seeking individual advice from a connection mentor, a registered mental health professional, or a coach. Conversations about human connection address loneliness. We destigmatize loneliness here at Humans Connecting. We do that by talking about loneliness openly. Loneliness conversations necessarily include a range of topics which at times may be difficult for us to talk about, to hear, and to sit with. If, throughout our conversation, this is true for you, we encourage you to please contact a mental health hotline. The link in the episode description can help you find some immediate support for many places you may be in the world. Our advice to you is this: meet yourself where you are and how you are right now. If you don't feel up to it, we'll be right here ready to be by your side when you are ready. We're glad you're here. Let's jump in.
Hello, it's Phil. Welcome to the Humans Connecting podcast. So we are so happy to see you for this episode because we're going to be having a chat with Eleisha Casañas from the Friends for Good, a non-profit here in Australia, which is seeking to free us humans from loneliness. But before we join Eleisha for this conversation, we want to say hi. And it's so just wonderful to have you. And I want to say thank you for choosing to press play on this episode, this content that is designed to help you become a connected human. And if you are new here to the Humans Connecting podcast, we want to say very warm welcome. It's lovely to have you here. And if you're back for another episode, we are just so happy to have you here that words simply cannot describe it. But either way, we just want to, as we do with most episodes of the podcast, want to acknowledge you for your bravery and courage, because almost every time we go to press play or engage with content on loneliness and social disconnection, we need to, wrestle with some thoughts and feelings that might be a bit uncomfortable, even if that wrestle is like mere moments, or if it could be a bit of a longer term wrestle, an ongoing wrestle. Either way, it takes bravery and courage for you to press play. And we just think because of that, because you've pressed play, whether it's on YouTube or on the podcast service that you're listening through, we just think that you're just absolutely awesome either way. And I've done it again. I have started this episode without introducing myself. I am Phil McAuliffe. I am the founder of humansconnecting.org. And we are a social enterprise that we're setting up to destigmatize loneliness and to help you, however you identify as a human, wherever you are in the world, and whatever you do for a living, to get the connection that you need and that you absolutely deserve. And we do that through all sorts of things, but it all starts at humansconnecting.org. And there's lots of products and services, including speaking services, including services to help workplaces feel more connected. And it just all starts at humansconnecting.org. Eleisha Casañas is going to be joining us shortly, but before she does get here, I just wanted to give her a bit of an introduction. So Eleisha began her professional journey in the hospitality and tourism industry, where she earned a degree in business and worked in management at a prestigious 5-star hotel. Inspired, though, by her solo travels around the world and a deep desire to understand and to help others, she pursued a degree in psychology and graduated with honors. And a little spoiler, we're going to be exploring that in the conversation in just a few moments. And her career took a meaningful turn as she became a researcher and early intervention therapist, dedicated to supporting children on the autism spectrum and their families. And through her extensive work and studies, she discovered the profound impact of loneliness on health and well-being and the essential role for humans of social connection. And passionate about addressing these issues, Eleisha joined Friends for Good, a not-for-profit organization with a mission to free people from loneliness. She's currently the National Research and Community Education Manager at Friends for Good, and she's instrumental in developing programs aimed at combating loneliness and conducting research to further understand its complexities. Eleisha has focused on creating broad national initiatives that address loneliness and is also working on local community development projects in the Barwon region of Victoria, where she currently lives. And currently, she's particularly interested in loneliness during the perinatal period and intergenerational initiatives that foster social connection and community well-being. Please join me in welcoming Eleisha Casañas to the Humans Connecting podcast. Eleisha Casañas, welcome to the Humans Connecting podcast.
Thanks so much, Phil. I'm really excited to be here. I'm a long-term listener, so yeah, excited to be here as a guest today.
Well, what's it say? What's the expression? Long-time listener, first-time caller. I think we can adapt.
That's it. That's it.
We can adapt that to long-time listener, first-time guest.
Yes.
And it's so great to have you here because I'm really excited to have a chat about what you're doing and the work from Friends for Good. But I've just read your intro, like in your bio, and I just want to I'm always really curious to find out like why someone ended up doing what they're doing in like the loneliness and human connection space. So what was it particularly for you that drew you to doing what you're doing at Friends for Good?
Yeah, good question. I think I went through this kind of period of my life. I was working in hospitality in this really fast-paced environment, which I loved. But I felt like, there's something a bit more to life. And I did a lot of traveling. And I think in that time, and you might relate to this from all your time living and working overseas, just seeing how different people live and different communities exist, I kind of noticed this, I guess, thread of when people were more connected, they were happier, they had better well-being. And I just started to see this as I was traveling around and just having a good time. I started to kind of see this thread happening. And at the same time, I started studying psychology, and I was learning all about the human mind and social connection and all the different kind of, I guess, problems that I could see in the world. There was this common thing that seemed to be helping to solve them, which was bringing people together, which was reducing loneliness. And I sort of stumbled across Friends for Good. I started as a volunteer when it first began in 2016. I was helping with some of their social media work. And through that, I was reading about the research that was happening and seeing what else was going on in Australia with loneliness. And I just was really inspired by the work and by, I guess, there was this felt like a big gap, and I've seen that it's kind of built in momentum since then, but yeah, just a big gap, and I think something that I just felt really passionately drawn to. So starting out as a volunteer, and I've just kind of stayed in this space for a few years now, and I feel like it's almost a bit of a part of me. I can't even go out for a coffee with somebody without dropping in something about social connection or loneliness or some research in it. So yeah.
All familiar with that. I feel like I'm the bore. Whereas, as soon as someone I like may not know, but they're like, so Phil, what do you do?
Yeah.
And here in Canberra, it's a public service town. And,
Yes.
years ago, I would have been able to say, well, I work for this department, this ministry, and I do this.
Yeah.
And people were go, oh, now I'm the person who's like, wow, I've started a social enterprise called Humans Connecting, and we talk about loneliness
Yeah.
and, social connection and, what happens to us. And yeah, generally it's like, I don't know, you probably get a far better response than I do, but it's just like, oh, that's really interesting. Sometimes,
Mm.
the person, downs their drink and like, oh, I'm empty,
Yeah.
and off they
Gotta
go.
go. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I also feel like, in many instances, I'm the bore. But I just wanted to say to the listener and the
Mm.
viewer here right now, in the last episode with Dr. Miriam Kermeyer, where we talked about friendship, I just sort of said quietly into the microphone out of the side of my mouth, and I'm going to say it like from the front of my mouth in this this chat with Eleisha. Listener, viewer, here is yet another example of a guest on the Humans Connecting podcast who is doing what they're doing in the world right now after noticing something and then with like curiosity, sort of
Mm.
pulling the thread. And I find that, Alicia, I find that really interesting because in many, like, I don't sort of, you've listened to some episodes of this before,
Mm.
so you may have
Yeah.
been more prepared for this than others. But I just want to say, there's like that quick synopsis. Um, seems like, yeah, it was quite logical. You noticed this, and so you started doing that. But for me,
Mm.
the good stuff is like after the noticing, after the awareness, what you chose to do with that after that. And that you sort of notice the result of what humans can do and how we feel when we feel connected within ourselves and then connected beyond ourselves.
Mm.
Um, I just want to say, thank you for following that curiosity, but
Yeah.
also like it might not have been readily apparent when you kind of first noticed that.
Yes, definitely. I think it took a while first for me to recognize the fact that, sometimes what I was seeing or even feeling in myself was loneliness, and that's, what I was seeing was really quality social connection or disconnection. I think there's not always the words for it. And that's kind of one of the challenges in working in this area, that people don't always actually even identify that what they're feeling is loneliness. And I know you've talked about this as well in your own personal journey of, recognizing that's what you're experiencing and then where that kind of takes you. And I think it's really interesting. And I feel really grateful that I was able to follow my curiosity and then find meaningful work in that area, because some people have that curiosity and interest, but it doesn't necessarily always lead to, a job or work that they can do. So I feel really
Mm.
lucky that I'm able to do that.
I think we're all lucky that you can do that
Yeah.
too. But like you mentioned, you had that kind of epiphany when
Mm.
you were traveling, and from your intro, you were traveling solo,
Yes. Yeah.
and for some of us, that can seem, terrifying.
Mm.
Um, what did you learn about yourself?
Oh, everything. I feel like, I mean, I took the first trip I did a round the world trip by myself. And I remember I said to my parents, I've got these stops. There was like 4 different stops. And I was like going to a jungle in Peru and a few different other places. And I gave them those 4 things. And my mum was just like, oh my goodness, you've got nothing else planned. Like, how are you going to survive this? Like, she was just so upset. Um, but yeah, I don't know. I think I learned a lot about myself as an individual out in the world, not being there as somebody's daughter or sister or, just being myself. And I think I also learned a lot about social connection, because even in traveling solo, I really didn't feel alone very much at all. I found it really easy to make beautiful connections with people all over the world, because I think especially backpackers and other people that are traveling are really open to meeting other people and having meaningful connections. So it was interesting to be I guess, yeah, by myself, but I often didn't feel by myself at all. And I made some really beautiful connections of people that I still talk to now. So yeah,
Mm.
and learned so much, I guess, about the world and humans and what sort of life I want to have. And yeah, so much.
Because one of the things that we often find here at Humans Connecting, and I'm sure that you see this in aspects of your work at Friends for Good, but it's I need something like something along the lines of I need a trip away so I can go and find myself.
Mm,
And, I need to quit my job or I need to take long
mm,
leave or unpaid leave or whatever it is. And, I need to
yeah.
do something to go and find myself.
Mm.
Was there an element of, going to find yourself?
I don't think at the outset I was thinking of that. I think I was just thinking about having an adventure, and I did quite a lot of questionable and risky things along the way. I'm a bit of an adrenaline junkie, and so I did a lot of wild things that I just, it was all about fun for me. But I think in the process, I did learned a lot about myself, and I learned a lot of resilience, and I learned how to talk to people from all different walks of life. And I think I probably stumbled on myself along the way. Yeah, but it wasn't my plan, I don't think, in the outset.
Yeah, yeah. I think one of the things that I notice, and I love that, it's sort of like, I kind of happened upon myself in
Yeah,
in the
yeah,
and in many instances, that's how we kind of find ourselves. Like
yeah.
we put ourselves into a challenging position, and it doesn't have to
Hmm.
be, jumping on a flight and crossing, the South Pacific Ocean,
Yep.
find ourselves on the Inca Trail in Peru or climbing Cotopaxi or whatever. Like,
Mm.
we can find ourselves wherever we are. Because in the end, sometimes when we go to, great lengths to find ourselves, like
Hmm.
physically, like enormous distances to try and find ourselves on some kind of idyllic beach,
Yeah,
or on the top of a mountain, like wherever we go, there we are.
exactly. Yeah. I was about to say that you take yourself with you wherever you go. So whatever's going
Yeah,
on for you, or yeah, it's there with you. Yeah,
yeah,
that's really
yeah.
interesting. Mm.
And one of the things that I find, in particularly in the work that we've been doing here at Humans Connecting, um, is about like, the great journey. A great journey in life is the journey within.
Mm.
And and I used to say this to the audience at The Lonely Diplomat, and diplomats are, intrepid, they're,
Yeah.
worldly, they're adventurous, they, can string a beautifully constructed sentence together, and look great in smart glasses and a snappy suit. But for all that intrepidness, that outwards intrepidness and curiosity about the world, there can be a real reluctance to go within.
Mm. Yeah. And I think that's where the real courage is, really, is to go within and to face those your own internal journey. I think that sometimes takes the greatest amount of courage and vulnerability, really. It's something quite easy about just going off and exploring the world, but it's facing real truths of your life and looking at yourself that I think can be the real challenge.
Thank you for answering that. That was unprompted and stuff, and that was just me potentially being a bit sneaky. But I was really curious just from your intro, and particularly what stood out for me is that
Mm,
you went traveling solo, um, and seemed to have come back with this appreciation of something bigger. As you said, you had this broader perspective, and that has led
mhm.
you to being here now. I think
Yes.
that to me is just infinitely fascinating, and those kind of decision points. Changing gears a moment, Alicia, or for now.
Mhm.
What? Sorry, who are Friends for Good, and what services does it provide humans?
Yeah, good question. So Friends for Good is a not-for-profit organisation. So we focus specifically on loneliness and social isolation and increasing social connection. So the organisation started in 2016. It was actually the first organisation in Australia to be focusing specifically on loneliness. The founders had worked in community services for years and just kind of noticed this common issue that loneliness was underlying a lot of the problems that they could see, and they started to look into it and say, well, what is out there for people who experience loneliness? And at the time it was quite limited. So Friends for Good offers services to support people experiencing loneliness. We also look at addressing the stigma of loneliness. So we do conferences, events, research. So I guess we're trying to tackle loneliness as an issue across a few different levels. So one-on-one with individuals, but then also more broadly in the community, raising awareness and trying to bring networks of people together to work on loneliness.
I have to say, it's great to know. So, I've been aware of the work that you do at Friends for Good for a few years now.
Yeah.
And, it is great to know that there are others who are also, destigmatizing loneliness.
Mm.
And, your like the company's mission statement, for want of a better word, that might not be the right word there, but is to free us from loneliness.
Yeah, it's an interesting one because we talked a lot about like what wording to use. Are we ending loneliness? Are we escaping loneliness? Are we accepting loneliness? Like it's a really interesting one. We ended up going with freeing people from loneliness with the idea that it can be freeing people from, I guess, the hold that loneliness can have on them or the effect that it could be having on them. So like understanding that having loneliness is a natural part of life and most people experience it at some time throughout their life, but I guess trying to free people from the impact that it has on them and the pain of it. Yeah, so that's freeing people from loneliness. It's, I guess, a pretty big mission, isn't it?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
here, at Humans Connecting, we are all about the big mission. And
Yeah.
it is really great to know that um because it's there's an ironic loneliness
Mm.
to working on loneliness.
Yes,
And
that's very true.
yeah, and it's not like sometimes it's like the fun irony, but not often. It's the
Yeah.
this sucks.
Mhm.
And this is not fun. And I often, have joked that I don't know, things would be kind of a lot more fun if I started writing a blog and doing a podcast all those years ago on, sexy shirtless firemen holding puppies. And but no, like it's it may have been entertaining for a few weeks, and then I'm like, oh, there's another guy holding a puppy. Like, yeah, oh,
Yeah.
that's amazing. But no, this is sometimes in a similar way to, the epiphany that you had.
Mm.
Like, you don't get to choose sometimes what you're drawn to,
Yes.
and stuff. So I wanted to say thank you for doing what you do as well to destigmatize loneliness, and I applaud you, and the whole Friends for Good team for sticking with freeing from loneliness.
Thank you.
Um,
That's good feedback to have because it's a one that I think the wording around things we really wrestle with. We've
yeah,
talked a lot about should we include the word loneliness in programs and supports that we do, and I know it's something that probably you've thought about as well. And for Humans Connecting, should we talk or should we say the word? Because sometimes people get scared of it and go, I don't want to be associated with something that's to do with loneliness because it's so stigmatized.
mm,
But then that is the way that we're going to break down the stigma, is talking about it openly. And that's something that people with lived experiences of loneliness like yourself have done so beautifully, is to say, well, hey, I've felt this and look, I'm okay, and let's talk about it. And that's how it's going to lose its power of stigmatization, I think, if we continue to have the conversations.
yeah. And I think we've just kind of hit on the next question, which is, or the
Mm,
next issue, which is, what are some of the challenges that you and the
mm,
team at Friends for Good encounter in your, day-to-day work?
yeah. I mean, I think I can't really talk about the challenges without talking about like lack of resources. I think any not-for-profit operating in the world today probably feels it, that there's, you know, you can see the need out there. You can see these wonderful services that people are saying, I love it, it's helping me, it's great, but not always being able to provide the services to the extent that we want to, just because we don't have the funds to do it. So I think that's probably one of the biggest challenges. And most of us are there passionately because we want to work in this area, not because we want to do fundraising or do marketing or do, you know, these other parts of the role that we sort of have to do to keep things going. So I think, yeah, that's a frustrating part of it, and not like seeing the need and seeing that the impact that the services have on people, but then not always being able to offer it to everyone is really hard. So I think that's a big challenge. I think another challenge is the stigma itself. I think it's affected some of the programs that we've done, that people have not always engaged as much as we had hoped because of the stigma, and we've had to kind of reassess and shift things around and change the way that we're doing things to try and overcome that. Even the stigma, I think, impacts how much people want to be involved with the organisation. Like, we have lots of volunteers. We've got about 200 at the moment, and we've got many people that are keen to help and work on our mission. But I think some people are a little bit afraid of even working in the area because they think, I don't want people to think I'm lonely because I'm involved in this. You know, that's the stigma is so strong. So
Yeah.
I think probably the stigma is as well an issue to kind of overcome. I think probably another challenge is just the fact that loneliness is so complex, that it's really different for each individual. So when you're working in a space of, let's try and address loneliness, let's try and help people who are feeling loneliness, how do you do that? How do you take on such a big and complex issue? And the way we've tried to do it is to try and tackle it on different levels and with different services, and always be trying to hear the feedback of people and adjust as we can. But the fact that it is so complex and so personal, I think, makes it really hard to, it's like a challenge in every step that we take, because you've got to always think about how will it affect each individual person, and will this service be beneficial to everybody, and that personalization, I think, is really hard.
You're right. And because there are, you know, we don't often experience loneliness in one way within ourselves. So, you know, and it feels to me like there's a couple of different ways that loneliness can present itself, you know, within me. And sometimes it's, you know, the power of the stories that I tell myself, which sort of sits at the heart of, you know, potentially a belief. This is hard to say out loud, but like a belief that I'm not worthy of love and belonging, which is, you know, the kind of, I make light of this, but this is really serious, is that, you know, that's the kind of statement that we say out loud, and we fear, you know, the sound of a record scratching, and, you know, the conversation around us just kind of suddenly stops and everyone's judging us, and things. But, you know, that's a big, heavy statement, and goes, I feel, to the absolute heart of the stigma of loneliness.
I think so
And
too.
by
Yeah, and
showing up,
thank you for sharing that, and, you know, saying what, and I think everybody at the end of the day has those deep thoughts and those things that are in their core that are painful to look at and to say out loud, and I think it's a really brave thing to do. So yeah.
thank you. It is one of those things, that the more we say it, and the more people go, oh shit, I thought, sorry, I said before that I wasn't going to swear, I was going to mind my
That's fine.
language. And there I am, you know.
No, it's fine.
But
Yeah.
yeah, like there, you know, I thought I was the only person who thought those thoughts and felt those feelings. And of course, that's not true.
Yeah, absolutely.
But the power of the stories that we tell ourselves, myself included, is along those lines of like how tough, you know, well, the stories are so powerful that almost we can make any kind of, we can reach any conclusion that sounds like, well, I'm not worthy of this, so I'm not going to allow myself to have it. Other people can have it,
Yeah.
and stuff. And then one of the other things as well here is how loneliness is, and what you were just speaking to then, Alicia, loneliness is one of those things that other people have.
It's us and
And
them kind of thing. It's not me. Yeah,
no, I'm here to show up for other people.
yeah, yeah.
And or I'm here to talk about loneliness. And I say this because I'm a language nerd, proudly so. But we talk
Mm,
about loneliness is engaged in the third person. So we
hmm
talk about the concept. We talk about the data. We talk about the prevalence. We talk about how it all of these key things, and we have a great
mm,
understanding or an improved understanding
mm.
of loneliness around us and what like loneliness does. But loneliness doesn't live in the third person. Loneliness lives in the first person. It lives in us.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's really interesting you say that. And when you were talking before about, working in loneliness, and sometimes that's quite lonely. I remember a few months ago, I was working from home a lot and I was just working by myself. And I was writing something, I can't remember what it was, but I was writing in loneliness this and loneliness that and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, you know what? You are actually feeling lonely right now. And I was
Mm.
feeling lonely. I was working by myself in this kind of isolated space. Everybody else was busy. I had no one to chat to. And it's so funny because it was kind of like, even as long as I've been working in this area and my understanding of it, I still had that tendency to put it as sort of separate from me. And I came to this realization. I went, oh, actually, it's something that I'm experiencing right now. And it was really interesting. And I reached out to different organizations around my local area. And right now I'm working out of a local neighborhood house. And it's amazing. Like, there's all these wonderful people that pop in and we chat. And I feel like a much greater sense of community, and my work, I'm more productive because I'm not in that kind of isolated space. But it took me a minute to kind of go, hang on a minute, this is what I'm experiencing. So I can't imagine for people who have not been thinking about this and reading about this and researching this for years, how hard it is to kind of make that connection and then recognize it and take steps to make changes. So yeah, it's really interesting, isn't it?
Yeah, and interesting in not in the great interesting, like it sucks. It's
Yeah,
horrible. Um,
yeah, exactly.
and it's interesting to talk about in retrospect, but in the moment it's quite yuck.
Yeah.
And even for me last week, even for me just this last week,
Yeah.
one of the things, one of my tells is that, there's like I have some like amazing stories going on in my head
Yeah.
about all sorts of things. And, I recognized this, one day last week. I was like,
Mm.
right. And, once I kind of had like identified again, the symptom, I'm like, oh, that's what that's
Mm.
about. And that's why I've had that response. And,
Yeah. Yeah.
right, it's not about the thing, it's about how I want connection,
Yes.
and am not getting connection that I needed. And within
Mm.
about, I don't know, 5 seconds, it kind of like that real reframe. I'm like, oh, I need to do something
hmm
like not related to this. I need to go outside. I need to, I don't know, like get in touch with a friend. I need to, do whatever
Mm.
that wasn't what I was doing, because what I was doing was feeding loneliness.
Yeah.
Um, and then come back to it when I was feeling a bit more connected.
Mm. And it's interesting that awareness part of it. Did you find that happened faster for you this time than it probably would have done in the past? Do you think
Oh yeah.
you've kind of worked that muscle and then you're like, oh yeah, now I see what's happening and I can respond? Because I mean, when you think about it, I mean, our research we did last year, we found 9 out of 10 people have experienced loneliness in their lives. Like, it's everyone and it's all the time at all different stages of your life. So to think that you'll just never experience loneliness is probably unrealistic. So I think it's that ability to have the awareness and go, oh, hang on, this is what I'm feeling, this is what I could maybe do about it, this is what's worked for me in the past, here's what services or help or friends or what do I need to do. Like, it's just that ability to see it and then make some change, which is really crucial.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think just going back a few steps, when you was talking about one of the challenges is how do you respond? And this is a potentially, terrible image, but responding to loneliness is kind of like nailing a jellyfish to the ceiling.
Yeah,
And try as you may, it just keeps on slipping through.
yeah.
And no jellyfishes were harmed in the in the construction of that analogy there. But it's slippery, it's
Yeah.
enigmatic, and
Hmm.
and when it comes to seeking funding for services, like a response, there's no guarantee. If you build
Mm.
it, they might not come.
Yes, this is true. And I think like with Friends for Good, the first service that we launched was Friendline, which has been our core service, the phone service for people experiencing loneliness. So that's where we've got trained volunteers there to just have a chat and have this like powerful conversation. But it's chatting like you would to a friend or a family member. It's not, crisis support, mental health support. It's just a connection. And that, really it was one of those build it and will they come or not? We don't know. And we just did it and got this amazing response. My manager always talks about, I think it was the first night on Friendland, and she was cleaning the desk because the phones weren't ringing and she didn't have anything to do. So she was pottering around cleaning the desk. And then, fast forward now, we've got thousands of calls and people, wanting the service and all this amazing, beautiful feedback of people saying it's truly helped me and really changed my life. So, I think I'm very passionate about research and using an evidence base behind things, but I think there's also a lot of power in just kind of going, here is a need, here is a simple solution that we're just going to try and we're just going to see if this is going to work. And obviously, getting feedback and changing things and adapting and considering the risk to people, but also just kind of going, there's a need and let's address it. Let's do something about it. So yeah, and it's
Yeah.
exciting now. We're kind of moving on, like expanding on those services. So we're launching Arabic Line in September, which is going to be, I think, really wonderful. So it's similar to Friendline, but all in spoken in Arabic. So we've noticed this kind of gap, both within the research and in the community for services to connect people who don't speak English as their first
Yeah.
language. And I think there's such a big power in talking in your native language to somebody, like to have that connection in your native language. You probably can relate to this from living overseas for extended periods of time. Like there's something really important about it. So yeah, it's exciting, but yeah, I think that there's a real challenge in that of, deciding what do we create and how do we do it. And I think when I look at the founders of Friends for Good, I think they were really brave in just saying, this is what we're going to do. We're just going to do it and hope that it works and hope that it helps people. And it really has. So it's paid off.
Yeah. I love it. I love it. Seems like a great time to take a quick break. We'll be back in a moment.
It doesn't matter what business you're in. At the heart of every workplace, there's a simple yet powerful need for people to feel connected, to feel seen and heard, to feel appreciated and valued. This is Pete from the Humans Connecting team, and I wanted to share with you a little bit about a program that we provide called the Creating Connected Workplaces. Now look, there's plenty of generic one-size-fits-all courses and videos out there on the market. And perhaps you've got your work fitness program or the Friday team lunches or after work drinks, and all of these things are fine for connection. But look, as a business, as a team, as a human, you deserve more than just fine. We're here to go way beyond that and help create workplaces where every person feels a deep sense of belonging, where every voice matters, and where the strength of our human connections help fuel the collective success. Just like every human is unique and different, every business is different as well. So this program is tailored and curated specifically for the needs of your organisation. But look, don't just take our word for it. Have a look at our website over here at humansconnecting.org and see how we've helped businesses from Specsavers to Medibank. Now, if this sounds like the type of workplace that you'd like to have, reach out to Phil and the team here at Humans Connecting, and let's help create a connected community where everyone can thrive in your workplace, because you're worthy of that.
Now, let's get back to the conversation. And so what have been some of the wins? I think you've kind of alluded to some of them.
Yeah.
And the power of a cleaning solvent on the desk to suddenly make the phones ring, and
Yeah.
and other wins. But what have been some of the wins that you've had, like
Yeah.
collectively at Friends for Good? What are some of the things that stick in your
Yeah.
own memory, but also in the
Mm.
collective memory?
Yeah. I think thinking about some of the stories that people have told us. So we do like a quarterly evaluation survey where we get people to share their stories about using our service and, help us to refine it. And some of the words that people put in there when they talk about, I didn't use, I used to go weeks without speaking to somebody, and now I've got somebody to talk to every single day, and I tell them about my day and it's changed my life. Things like that are just, I think it's just such a win that you've got people who have been able to engage with our services, and it's really made a positive difference. Sometimes when I'm feeling, a bit downtrodden with all of the work and trying to get funding and all of the stuff around it, I go back and read those things because it's what gives me that kind of boost to go, yeah, this is actually really helping people and making this deeply positive impact in their lives. So, I mean, that's a massive win.
So that feels like
I think
it taps back into your why.
Yes,
To
exactly.
kind of, a Simon Sinek kind of reference there. But yeah, like, when, it all feels, just a bit overwhelming and,
Yes.
or overwhelming, not just a bit,
Mm.
remembering that, there are real people that you're,
The real people behind it. Yeah, absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah. I think some of the other wins are probably some of the events that we've done, just seeing people get together who are all working in this space, who are really passionate, who have like fabulous ideas. We did a symposium last year, and that's one of the events that I like organize myself from start to finish, and then seeing everyone come to that event and have such positive feedback, and just hearing all these conversations happening, people saying, oh, your service is great, I'm going to refer people to this, or I've got an idea that you can use, or whatever. Just that collaboration I think is so powerful. So yeah, those events have been really great. I think they're the main ones that come to mind.
Yeah. I'm totally with you on the collaboration.
Mm.
And in the intro, I said that, one of the things that we want to do here at Humans Connecting is to be
Mm.
a service that, someone can find,
Yeah.
and that they can then get the support that they need, even if it's not our support, like, provided
Yes,
by
absolutely.
us.
Yeah.
Um, because one of the things that I feel really strongly about, well, first of all, collaborative
Mm-hmm.
is one of my core values.
Mm-hmm.
And life just feels so much richer when we do it together. And one of the
Yeah.
things, as well here is that, there are a growing number of people working in loneliness and human connection space. And, my friend Ange Campbell over in New Zealand,
Mm.
she's trying to come up with, well, she asked a question a few months ago on LinkedIn. It was like, well, what's the industry called now? What do we call
Mm.
ourselves?
That's a good
And things, but
question.
it kind of feels, it's very nascent. And one thing, if anyone's got an answer for that, I'm sure Angela, she's still on the hunt for an answer. Um, but one of the things here is that, for me, very strongly, when all the people who are working on this in
Mm.
Australia, and in globally, when we come together, we all have a
Mm.
different experience. We all have different skills.
Mm.
We all have different talents and interests. And when we work collaboratively, it just means that we have such a more holistic view, of the situation for humans wherever they are, and
Mm-hmm.
whatever they do and however they identify. um and yeah, I feel really strongly about this. Like, it
Mm.
is so powerful to be able to go, oh, you know what, that sounds really good, we've kind of got this service that
Mm.
might help you, but I know this person, and
Yes.
here's their website. You might not have heard of them, but they're in
Mm.
your area. They're doing this. Um, yeah, and this is something
Yeah.
that I thought that everyone did, but I have to thank my previous career in the public service and diplomacy. This is something that I just do.
Yeah.
And to go, well, I don't know if I can help you, but I know some great people who can.
Mm. Yeah.
And stuff. And it just seems like we go so much further when we go
Oh,
together.
so much. I love
Yeah.
that you said that your core values, one of your core values is collaboration. That really resonates with me, because I feel the same. I've seen so many amazing things happen when people can work together and use each, you lean on other skills and experience, not try and reinvent or duplicate what's already been done out there. Yeah, I think it's just so important in this space and in any industry, really. Like, I think working collaboratively and networking and connecting with one another. I mean, obviously we love connection, don't we? That's what we're doing here. But yeah, it's so important.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Thanks for for that, Eleisha. Like one of the things that I'm keen to explore is, one of the initiatives from Friends for Good is the Australian Loneliness Dialogue. And I think you mentioned it, just in terms of the symposium last year. But can you explain to us what the Australian Loneliness Dialogue is?
Yeah, sure. So it's a series of conferences. So we're coming up to our fourth one, happening in August of this year. And they're really about bringing together people who are working in loneliness or interested in loneliness or social connection, and having meaningful conversations about this space and what we can be doing to address it collaboratively or on our own, having those deep conversations and having networking opportunities to work together. So we've had different themes for the events over the years. We looked at loneliness across the lifespan. We looked at regional and rural kind of experiences of loneliness. We looked at loneliness with the COVID pandemic. That was a really interesting topic at the time. And this year we're going to be looking at technology and how technology can be harnessed to increase human connection, and what are the kind of challenges and opportunities there, which I think is a really interesting and hot topic at the moment, something that people have been debating in different spheres. So it's going to be really great to get people together. We've got some experts in the field. But yeah, the Australian Loneliness Dialogue generally is just about bringing people together to have these conversations and provide information and education. Kind of is also part of one of our goals, which is increasing education and awareness about loneliness and reducing the stigma. So it's also doing that.
Yeah. And the keen to explore, like, this is a Pandora's box, and I feel that this is going to be something that we here at Humans Connecting will be exploring over time on the podcast. But one of the things here is just about AI, and the AI solution to loneliness, which feels very, it's a very common question. It's a very sort of in the, I want to say, something clever and pithy along the lines of, like, the blogosphere or something like that. But in, the loneliness sphere,
yes, it is. It is like a hot topic at the moment.
Yeah. And it really is. I think when we're talking about, as you said, one of the challenges is, as a nonprofit that Friends for Good is, as a nonprofit, getting funding. And the thing that is to compete, I guess, against funding for AI and AI development to find the answer to loneliness. And I feel, that's one of the big challenges that we have in, shout out to Ange Campbell. Can you come up with a word that would be really helpful that I can refer to, like, the collective industry that's growing here. No pressure, Ange.
That would be useful. Thank you, Ange.
Yeah.
No pressure.
But one of the things here is that, this is, there is only, a finite amount, and what gets the attention and the funding goes where the attention is. So I think
absolutely.
I'm really interested in exploring that, quite obviously. But one thing, and it's just fantastic those kind of conversations and how we can use tech is to help people feel connected. I think, yeah,
Yeah.
so topical.
Yeah. And I think as well, for me, it's one of those things because loneliness is so complex. I feel like tech is maybe one of the things in the toolbox. I don't ever feel like it can be the solution that we replace any kind of human connection with AI or other tech solutions. This is my personal opinion, not Friends for Good, but I personally don't feel like it's ever going to be a solution that's going to solve loneliness for somebody. But I think that, and I hope that it would be something that's in the toolbox, that it can be complementary, and like all the different services and supports and things that are out there for people, they can pick and choose what suits them, and in their moment when they're feeling lonely, and it might be different across their lifespan. They might feel a different transient loneliness at different times of their life, or they might experience chronic loneliness, whatever's happening for them, that there's different tools out there that might suit some people and not others. So that's how I kind of feel like it will be valuable. But I think it's such an important conversation to have, because obviously there's so many risks as well with the ethical and moral considerations with using this kind of technology. So I think it's really worth having those discussions. How can we use it? How can we use it safely? What are the opportunities? What are the challenges? Yeah, I'm so excited to have that conversation and hear what comes out of it.
Yeah, yeah. And I'm excited to be part of those conversations.
Yes, exactly. We're really excited to have you there on the panel as well. It's going to be wonderful.
Yeah, and to me, just as you were speaking there, Eleisha, it felt like, we're on the hunt. We're all searching for the tool to,
Yeah.
end loneliness. And
Yeah.
that's noble. And, I'm just got in my mind's eye, like the Swiss Army knife.
Yes. That's what
And,
I think too. I feel like there isn't, oh, sorry, you go.
no, please, 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 please.
No, I was just going to say, I don't feel like there is one tool that will solve loneliness. And we've always thought about, our services as things that are just one thing in the toolbox. People might be going out to activities during the day and then start to feel lonely at night. And then that's when they might call up Friendline and have a chat, or, they might be doing lots of different work during the week, but then they might come to one of our Walk for Good initiatives where they go out for a community walk with somebody, so it's just one tool in the toolbox, and it's never going to be everything for everyone. And I think everything that we're doing to address loneliness is like that in a way, and I don't believe from my study in loneliness and my experiences, I don't think there is one solution. There's not one size fits all. There's no pill you can take, and there's not one tool that's going to solve it for everyone all the time, because it's just not realistic.
Yeah. And I think, just like with a Swiss Army knife, like if you're stuck, if you're in a pinch, having one of the many tools that is very handy in that, very beautifully designed tool, that helps. But also, like, I don't really feel like opening a bottle of wine, or I don't know, what are the other tools in there? Like there's some scissors
like a little
and stuff.
scissors, yeah.
Yeah,
Nail
I'm not
file.
I'm not gonna be like, I'll probably want another tool if I
Yes,
needed to
exactly.
cut, do some cutting and pasting for an art project, rather than, having the Swiss Army knife and throwing out all the scissors in the house.
Yeah. And at the risk of like taking the analogy too far, it's also that I think it's really
We're here
important
for it. We're here for it, Eleisha.
that
Go
people
straight past that line.
just keep going. That people know that what tools they've got. They see them, they understand them. They might go, I don't need that tool right now, but I know it's there. It's in my pocket. If something comes up in the future, maybe I'll go to that one. So I think that's part of it as well, is educating. Well, here's what's out there. You might not need it now. You might not ever need it, but you know that you've got it.
Yeah. Yeah. So how can people find that if they're interested in, if they're working in and around the loneliness and human connection space? And Campbell, come on, we need that
we need the
word. But like how can they be part of and join that that dialogue? When is it?
Yeah, so it's the 8th of August. So it's going to be a full day from 9 o'clock till 4 o'clock. So they can find all the information on our website, www.friendsforgood.org.au. So the whole event is online, so it can be accessed from anywhere across the world. We've got a range of speakers. We've got a panel discussion. We're going to have a live robotics demonstration, some live music, some interactive exhibitor booths. So that's going to be a really cool function. That's part of the virtual experience. We're trying to make it virtually as collaborative as possible. So they can check it out on our website, and we've got tickets available still until the 8th of August.
And I'll be putting a link in the show notes for this, so you can go and register. One more question, Eleisha, and it's a question that I ask all our guests, and I don't mention this in the prep or anything.
Thank you.
But what is a piece of advice you can give to someone now who is in the middle of a loneliness experience?
What's a piece of advice? I think my advice would be, find some acceptance for what you're feeling, because it's something that is so common to the human experience. There's nothing wrong with you. There's nothing that you're doing wrong. It's just part of the human experience. There's supports out there, so have a look. Have a look at it with some curiosity in your mind and see what's out there. There's supports for you, and I think just have that awareness and acceptance of what's happening is a really important and brave first step. So if you're thinking that you're experiencing loneliness, we've already kind of taken that first step to kind of go, hey, this is what's maybe going on for me, which is a hard and scary thing to do. So I would commend them for that, and just be kind to yourself and look out for what could be there to put in your toolbox, your Swiss Army knife.
Yeah, that's fantastic advice. And Eleisha, you mentioned the website just before, but how can people find you, find Friends for Good, and to find out what services and support are offered?
Yeah, so definitely at our website. So I'll just say it again, it's www.friendsforgood.org.au. So we've got some resources on there, some links to different information, and all the research that we've done into loneliness and the stigma of loneliness, links to our different programs, phone services and other in-person programs. If people want to reach out to me on LinkedIn, I'm happy to chat, and I'm always keen to collaborate. And so, very happy to speak to people. You can find me on LinkedIn, Eleisha Casañas. And
Eleisha Casañas, thank you so much for joining us on this episode of the Humans Connecting podcast.
Thank you so much. It's been wonderful. Thanks for having me.
It's been a great chat. So that's it for this episode of the Humans Connecting podcast. Thank you so much for joining me and the team for this episode. And again, there are links in the episode description for that can take you to the Friends for Good website, where you can register for the conference, for the symposium on the 8th of August. And as always, we'd love to hear what you thought about this episode. So please feel free to comment on YouTube or on the podcast service through which you're now listening. You know how this works, and we just love to hear from you. And be sure to check out our website, humansconnecting.org, for details about how we can help you, your workplace, and communities thrive through loneliness and get the connection that you and everybody around you needs and deserves. And finally, we are here to make a positive social impact. So if you're a business and are looking for ways to support humans to feel more connected and want to also have a positive social impact, please check the link in the episode description to partner and collaborate with us. That could be through advertising on future episodes of the podcast, or collaborating with us in other ways. Again, there's a link in the episode description to make that happen. Again, thank you so much for joining us for this episode of the Humans Connecting podcast. We'll see you in an episode next week, but until then, remember that you, me, and every other human in the world, well, we're meant to connect. We're here to help you get the connection that you need and absolutely deserve. We'll see you next time.